Imagine this. You're at the airport ready to board your flight for that dream vacation or crucial business trip. You hand over your passport and suddenly, you're denied. Why? Because of Canada's shocking new passport renewal policies that could leave thousands stranded. This isn't just a minor update, it's a complete overhaul that will affect every single Canadian. And trust me, the government isn't making it easier for you. In fact, they're making it harder, more expensive, and more invasive than ever before. Buckle up, because today, we're exposing the brutal truth behind Canada's new passport rules. Changes that could ruin your travel plans, invade your privacy, and cost you hundreds more. Let's dive in. The Canadian government has quietly rolled out a major change to passport renewal requirements, one that forces Canadians to prove they've been living in the country consistently. Gone are the days when simply having a valid passport was enough for renewal. Now, applicants must provide additional documentation, utility bills, tax records, employment verification, or even lease agreements to confirm they've been physically present in Canada. Why is this so controversial? First, it disproportionately targets dual citizens, expats, and frequent travelers. If you've spent extended time abroad, whether for work, study, or family reasons, you could now be flagged as not resident enough to qualify for a straightforward renewal. This creates a two-tier system where natural-born Canadians with no ties overseas breeze through the process, while those with international connections face extra scrutiny. Second, the vagueness of the rules is causing chaos. The government hasn't clearly defined what counts as sufficient proof of residency. Is 6 months in Canada enough? A year? What if you're a digital nomad who spends half the year abroad but pays Canadian taxes? The lack of clarity means some applicants are getting rejected for arbitrary reasons, forcing them into lengthy appeals or even legal battles just to get their passports renewed. The government's justification? Well, they claim it's about preventing passport fraud and strengthening national security. But critics argue this is a thinly veiled attempt to discourage dual citizenship and restrict mobility for Canadians with global ties. In an era where remote work and international careers are booming, this policy feels like a backward isolationist move. Who gets hurt the most? Expatriates who've lived abroad temporarily but still call Canada home, snowbirds who spend winters in warmer climates, students studying overseas who may now struggle to renew passports from abroad, immigrants who travel frequently to visit family in their home countries. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a fundamental shift in how Canada views its citizens. The message seems to be, if you're not physically in Canada most of the time, you're not fully Canadian. Possible hidden agenda? Some speculate that this is a cost-saving measure. By making renewals harder, fewer people will apply, reducing bureaucratic workload. Others believe it's a political move to appeal to anti-immigration sentiments by creating more hurdles for those with ties outside Canada. What can you do? If you fall into any of these categories, apply for renewal early before you're hit with delays. Keep detailed records of your time in Canada, bank statements, phone bills, anything that proves residency, and most importantly, speak up. If enough Canadians push back, the government might be forced to clarify or reverse these restrictive rules. This isn't just about passports, it's about whether Canada still believes in being a global, open society, or if it's slowly closing its doors. The Canadian government has quietly introduced stricter residency requirements for passport renewals, and honestly, it's causing major backlash. Before, if you had a valid passport, renewing was pretty straightforward. Now, well, you'll need to provide additional proof that you've been living in Canada consistently. Think utility bills, tax records, or even employment verification. Why is this controversial? Because it targets dual citizens, expats, and even frequent travelers. If you've spent significant time abroad, you might now be flagged as not Canadian enough to renew easily. Critics argue this is a backdoor way to discourage dual citizenship and make life harder for Canadians who work or study overseas. The government claims it's about security, but let's be real. This feels a lot like bureaucratic overreach. Why should a Canadian who's lived abroad temporarily be treated with suspicion? This policy could force people into lengthy delays, extra costs, and even legal battles just to prove they deserve their own passport. Here's another bombshell. First-time adult passport applicants must now attend an in-person interview. That's right, no more mailing in your application and just waiting. You'll have to book an appointment, show up in person, and answer questions about your identity and travel history. Supporters say this reduces fraud, but let's break down the real impact. Not everyone lives near a passport office. Rural Canadians, students, and low-income families could face huge hurdles just to get an interview. And with massive backlogs already plaguing the system, this could mean months of waiting just for a basic passport. Worse yet, some applicants report being grilled about personal details, like why they've traveled to certain countries or gaps in their residency. This feels less like security and more like an interrogation. Is Canada turning into a country where you need permission just to hold a passport? Remember when renewing your Canadian passport was quick and affordable? Those days are gone. The federal government has quietly implemented brutal new processing delays and sneaky hidden fees, turning what was once a simple procedure into a bureaucratic nightmare designed to squeeze more money and time out of Canadians. Processing times have exploded, 6 months or more. Just a few years ago, standard passport renewals took 2 to 4 weeks. Expedited processing, as little as 2 to 5 business days for urgent travel. But now, the government's official processing times have ballooned to standard service up to 20 weeks, that's 5 months. Expedited service, still 2 to 9 weeks, and good luck getting an appointment. And that's if everything in your application is perfect. Honestly, just one small mistake, a missing signature, or maybe an unclear photo, and well, you're pretty much back to square one. That could add weeks or even months to your wait. So, why the delays? The government, blames high demand and staffing shortages. But let's be real. This is about systemic underfunding and poor management. Passport Canada has actually been plagued by backlogs for years, and instead of fixing the problem, they've just made it worse by adding even more red tape, like in-person interviews and stricter residency checks. Meanwhile, Canadians are really paying the price: missed family reunions, lost job opportunities abroad, and canceled vacations, with no refunds from airlines or hotels. It's just a tough situation all around. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a direct attack on Canadians' freedom to travel. Hidden fees, the government's new cash cow. If the delays weren't bad enough, the government has also quietly jacked up fees while adding new hidden costs that aren't clearly disclosed up front. Here's the breakdown: basic adult passport renewal for a 10-year validity used to cost $120 back in 2020. Now in 2024, it's $160. That's a 33% increase in just 4 years. Expedited processing fees, which used to be free if you had proof of urgent travel, now range from $50 to $110 extra, depending on how fast you need it. Then there's the file retrieval fee. If you need old passport records pulled for any reason, that's $45. And if your application is denied for any reason, you don't get a refund, meaning you'll have to pay another $160 to reapply. And that's not all. Photo verification fees. Some offices now charge $20 or more just to confirm your passport photo meets requirements. In-person service fees. If you need to visit a passport office, some locations charge service fees of $25 or more just to submit your application. Why does this feel like a scam? The government claims these fees are for improved services. But what improvements? Processing times are longer than ever. Customer service is a disaster. Try calling Passport Canada and wait times can exceed 3 hours. Online systems keep crashing. This isn't about better service, it's about milking Canadians for more money while delivering worse results. So who really gets hurt the most by all of this? Well, it's low-income families who just can't afford those expedited fees. It's rural Canadians who have to travel for hours just to reach a passport office. And let's not forget last-minute travelers, folks dealing with emergency trips for sick relatives or sudden work assignments. These are the people feeling the brunt of these delays. Alright, so what can you do about it? First, apply early. If your passport expires within a year, honestly, renew it now before the delays get even worse. And triple check your application because honestly, one mistake can mean months of delays. And don't just sit back, complain loudly. Contact your MP, write to Passport Canada, and demand some accountability. The bottom line here? This isn't just bad policy, it's really a shakedown. The government is profiting off your right to travel, and unless Canadians push back, it's only going to get worse. So, what do you think? Are these delays and fees actually justified? Or is this just another cash grab? Sound off in the comments, and share this video so more Canadians know what's happening. Remember when passport renewals took a few weeks? Yeah, those days are gone. The government now warns of delays stretching up to 6 months for standard applications. And if you need expedited service, well, be prepared to pay through the nose. Here's the kicker. They've also introduced new processing fees that aren't clearly disclosed up front. What was once a straightforward $120 renewal could now cost over $200 after all the hidden charges. And if you make a tiny mistake on your form, rejected, forcing you to pay all over again. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a cash grab. While politicians claim these fees fund improved services, Canadians are seeing longer waits and worse service. It's clear, the government is making passports harder to get while squeezing more money out of citizens. The most alarming change? Canada's push to link passports with a national digital ID system. Soon, your passport won't just be a travel document, it'll be tied to government databases, facial recognition, and possibly even your online activity. Officials say this will streamline travel and reduce identity theft, but privacy experts are sounding the alarm. Once your passport is part of a digital network, who controls that data? Could it be shared with corporations or foreign governments? Could you be denied a passport based on your social media posts or political views? This isn't paranoia. Governments worldwide are using digital IDs to monitor citizens. And with Canada's history of controversial surveillance laws, this could be a slippery slope toward losing your right to privacy. All in the name of, convenience. Under the new rules, even minor criminal offenses, including DUIs from decades ago, can now bar you from renewing your passport. Previously, only serious crimes triggered restrictions. Now, a past mistake could cost you your freedom to travel. Advocates argue this keeps dangerous people from fleeing the country, but critics say it's overly punitive, punishing people who've already served their time. Imagine being denied a passport and job opportunities abroad because of a mistake you made at 20. Is this justice or just another way to control citizens? These changes aren't just about passports, they're about control. Control over who gets to travel, who's considered a real Canadian, and how much of your privacy you're forced to surrender. And mark my words, if we don't push back now, these policies will only get worse. First, share this video. Every Canadian needs to know what's happening. Second, contact your MP and demand answers. Why are we being treated like suspects in our own country? And finally, if you need a passport, apply now before the rules tighten even further. Don't wait until you're stuck at an airport, realizing too late that your government has locked you out of your own freedom to travel. This isn't just a document, it's your right. Don't let them take it away without a